Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. Today I'm going to talk about propagating figs. Now I have 3 fig varieties right now, and it's December 20th, and these should all be dormant by now. Now the Kedota fig, I actually had to cut the leaves off it, but it doesn't matter if it's good green growing branch, then that's great. It'll root. The fig is one of the easiest plants to root. Now normally when I cut these off, it's not hard to tell on a fig which way it's growing, but if I'm cutting it off of another type of tree or something that I'm propagating, that I can't tell maybe that the buds are so pronounced on here as far as the direction that would be the top, then I would cut the top cut where it's flat, and then I taper the bottom cut. I always taper the bottom cut. Now another thing people tell you is, you know, they'll go through the thing about sanitizing your tools and all that kind of stuff. Now if you're doing a graft, you might be more particular about that. When you're doing a cutting to propagate, to me it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to sanitize everything you're going to cut, worry about disease, and then you're going to stick it into the dirt that's going to possibly have disease. And I've never had a problem with it. So that's, to me, that's just kind of silly. If you're propagating, somewhere along the line somebody started with this sanitize your tool so you're not going to transfer anything. In most instances, like I might wipe dirt off the bottom of it or something like that. I've touched it, I got bacteria on my hands. Most plants, that's not going to affect them. They'll root out and they'll put the roots off into the dirt that's full of bacteria. In fact, a lot of the bacteria are good for them. So we're not going to worry about that. That's enough on that end. But let me get some potting mix. I have my potting mix is just compost and peat moss, and a lot of times I'll put a little bit of organic fertilizer in there at the same time. When you're doing something like this, you want to have you some rooting hormone. Now you can get whatever variety you want. I've had this for a while, this Garden Safe. In fact, it's kind of getting where it's had quite a bit of moisture in it, which doesn't affect it. It still goes on the plants just fine. Also, you're going to want some water. That's going to be something that to ensure that your rooting hormone sticks to your branches that you're propagating. Now what I'll do is I'm going to get some of this mix, and sometimes I even use a coarser mix whenever I'm propagating fig trees or something. But the thing about it is, the coarser the mix, usually it dries out quicker, and you might have a little bit more of a problem with it. Now also you need something to make a hole. It's always best to make a hole in here, so that whenever you take and you stick this down in here, that it's not going to rub off all your rooting hormone. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this down in here. I don't have to have it very long. You want to, when you propagate these, you make your cut just below your little nodes there. In fig trees, they might be close, they might be further, as you can see with some. Now before I actually do this, I'm just going to score this bottom. This is something that I saw in another video, I used to strip off some of this layer, but I'm just going to score it. That appears to work real well. And I'm going to wet it down, and I'm going to put it in this container, and I'm going to plant it. Now I'll stick it down in here, and don't worry about you bury a leaf or something. It's going to be all right. But I'm going to pack that down in there some, because I want the soil to be tight around that. Keep it moist. Now I'll put that to the side. And also, you want to make sure you label them. Now this is brown turkey, and being it's close to December, turkey's kind of, I mean, it's close to Christmas, turkey is kind of on the menu. So the brown turkey is a big brown fig. In fact, I think they might call it Texas brown turkey. But anyway, these things, and you can see on here, there's little bitty bumps around here. Now these will send out roots. That is it's going to put roots out right around the area of this node here, where that line is. So if I bury this up to here, it's going to root here, it's going to root here. It's going to be a really good healthy root. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to score this one the same way. I'm just going to, and if you have a utility knife, that works good, but your cutters will work just fine. And if you're worried about bacteria, you think it's not going to work unless you clean them, well, go ahead and do whatever you feel good about. Some people got a lot of fears when it comes to gardening. They worry about all types of bacteria and stuff. But I'm going to do this one the same way. I guess I might need to prepare me a pot. And we'll make our little hole. It doesn't matter if it's deeper, because I'm just going to plant it how deep I want it in there. But I'm going to plant it down to that second node. And I might leave these inside for a little bit, but I'm not particularly going to keep them in too long. I'm going to put them out in the greenhouse, even though it's going to get cold. We're not trying to, in fact, it'd be better to root these in the greenhouse unless you're going to keep them inside, because you don't want to encourage leaf growth. And if it's cold enough, these buds will stay on here for a long time. They'll never shoot out a leaf. But if it's warm enough, like inside, they're going to want to take and start setting leaves. And that energy that should be going in there to plant or to grow roots is going to be used up in there for growing those leaves, and that's not what you want at this time. Now these are a little bit longer, and like I say, they're spread out more. But just make sure that you have some way to remember which way your cut is. And these will actually start rooting all out the side. A lot of people like to put these in, take a cup and put it over, keep them from drying out. Now, it is important to try to keep moisture content high, and if they're in the greenhouse, my greenhouse has always got 80 to 90 something % humidity, especially this time of year when it's closed up more. That's why it's a little bit harder to keep some of the diseases off the plants, because you have to ventilate even when it's cold, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of diseases that tend to do better in real high humidity. A lot of your molds and funguses and stuff like that. But we're going to plant this one down in there just like that. And if you're worried about the roots, whether it's got roots or not, a lot of people, they just can't wait. They've got to start pulling on it or something like that. Don't worry about it. Give it 2-3 weeks, and you just can do like you would normally, turn it upside down and take the soil out of the pot. And if it's got roots, they'll show up. And a lot of times they'll show up real quick on the bottom of the pot. So that's an important factor in there. But anyway, got one more here to pot up. And these here that I'm potting up now, these are Kedota Figs. They're more green on the outside, or yellowish color on the outside. And they're a pretty good size fig. And they're kind of red in the middle. I would tell you how good the flavor is, but the only one that I've got off of mine so far, because I planted this tree last year, and it had a couple on it when I got it, and I didn't really give them time to ripen up because the weather got really cold, and I said I better go ahead and pick them. And they were sweet, but they weren't all the way ripe. I like to pick my figs whenever they're starting to sweat out some of that, I would call it honey, but it's some of that sweet juice will start sweating out on the outside of the fig, and when it's at that point, it is really sweet. But anyway, it froze back to the ground last year. It's not very tall. I haven't given them a whole lot of attention, but I figured I'd take a few cuts off of it because I had to trim them up. I had a few limbs that were really too low, that I didn't want them that low, so I went ahead and clipped them off. But anyway, that's not all I have. I have some more to deal with here. This here, I have a couple of older fig trees that came off of one from my father-in-law, and I don't know what variety it is because he passed, and I just never knew which variety it was that he had, and if he had told me, I would have forgot anyway. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these and make these into some more. And if at first you don't succeed, try again. I propagated a bunch of these. I think it's the year before last, because I didn't do any last year. But and I lost a bunch of them due to I'd give away some, and people have them, but I'd lost a bunch because it was getting cold, and I didn't realize how cold it was getting. And when you have them in pots, it's not like having them in the ground. When you have them in the ground, the roots stay warm from the ground, but when they're in the pots, and these were sitting on top of a pallet, so when it froze, and it got pretty cold at that time in the mid-20s, it actually froze the roots on it completely and killed almost all of them. I went out and I brought them into my workshop. Of course, the leaves, they wilted off right away, and I had 3 of them survive. And of those 3, one more died later, so I ended up with 2. But be aware that if you have container plants, unless you have them in a real big container, they're not going to do real well when it freezes. And get them to where, if you're going to have that kind of problem, roll them into a garage or put something over them to kind of cover and protect them, give them a little bit more protection, like a roll cover fabric or something like that. That way they'll go ahead and survive. But this is an excellent time to go ahead and start rooting these in. And if you haven't ate figs, you probably want to taste figs. If you don't have any cuttings, find somebody that you know that has a fig tree and ask them for a cutting. It doesn't take much of a piece. These little bitty ones here, they'll root in just the same as any of the others. You know, and it'll make a nice viable fig tree, because it doesn't have a lot of energy that it's got to devote to the top part of it. But also, if you're going to do these in season, I'd say in the spring or something like that, which you can do on new root growth, and do that, take off almost every leaf that's on there, or every leaf that's on there, and make sure you have them in a shady spot, so they're not going to get a lot of sun to put a lot of energy to photosynthesis, and it's going to put more energy to the roots. And always keep them moist. That's another thing. Let me know, are you planting or propagating figs, or is there a particular type of fig that you like? Let me know in the comments. All right, I have them all planted up. I got 26 total. Last time I didn't grow about 7, so. But anyway, if they all survive, I'll have quite a few trees to sit out here. But anyway, these will be outside. It's supposed to be getting pretty cold tonight, which won't matter too much. The greenhouse probably won't get below freezing, but the main thing about these is they're best if you're going to start them this time of year in December. They need to be in a pretty cool place. Now, if you're up north, you probably can't do this outside, because it's, you know, you're going to get some freezing weather. But when you're down south, like I am, we will get a few days, but it's easy to adjust for it. And we're not trying to grow leaves, so we want it to be pretty cold. Even though they're budding out and they're going to be warmer in here, they might start growing leaves. Our intent is to get them to root in, and usually these root pretty quick. Anyway, I hope this video is helpful on propagating figs. If you want to go back and look at my old one on propagating figs and see how well they did, then we'll for sure go back and see it. If you want to see more of my videos, just hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you'll be notified, and give it a big thumbs up and share it. It helps my channel. Happy gardening.